So things like that happen. I mean, it's you could argue that it was, maybe a poor schedule, and maybe they could schedule him on a bigger court. Yes, but again, she's Alex Eala. That's been a talk, and which is understandable. There's some players coming from respective countries, like she's coming from Philippines, which is now a big deal. She's been the biggest ever, tennis player from that country, which is a big country, and there's a big interest.
The Novak Djokovic has finally spoken up about the Alex Eala incident at the Open in Australia. I can assure you that he did not hold back. The amazing Filipino tennis star and national pride, Alex Eala, was eliminated in the Australian Open's opening round. Here's the worst part though. Her performance wasn't the only factor. Djokovic and many other observers believe that the WTA's handling of her match was a major factor in her elimination. Additionally, Novak is strongly criticizing them for it. Alex Eala had big hopes going into the Australian Open. She is not your typical player. She is without a doubt the greatest tennis player to have ever emerged from the Philippines. That's not exaggeration. That is a fact. This young lady has been shattering stereotypes, creating history, and elevating Filipino tennis to international prominence. She is deserving of respect. She should be treated appropriately. She ought to have the same chances as any other player of her caliber. However, what did she receive in its place? A smaller court. Yes, it is correct. The WTA allocated Alex Eala to play on a smaller court when she could have and should have been playing on a larger, more prominent court, despite her talent, accomplishments, and everything. And Novak Djokovic saw music. He didn't merely observe it, he made a statement about it. And he made it quite evident that the WTA's management was subpar. According to Djokovic, Alex Eala is the best tennis player the Philippines has ever produced and should be treated with the utmost respect. However, the WTA does not treat her with that dignity. She is not being treated fairly by them. Unfortunately, her first round exit may have been caused by this inadequate handling. Some may now argue, come on, it's just a court assignment. How much of a difference does it actually make? I can assure you that it has a significant impact. The court's dimensions, mood, crowd energy, lighting, and surface conditions. Players' performance is influenced by all of these elements, particularly in high-stress circumstances like a Grand Slam competition. Music, however, this circumstance is made much more unsettling by the following. This is not a singular occurrence. Throughout her tenure in the WTA, Alex Eala has been subjected to a history of dubious treatment. And you understand exactly what I mean if you have been following her story. Allow me to return to one particularly heinous instance. Something quite startling occurred during the Australian Open qualifications, and the first set, Eala was in the midst of a crucial rally. She struck a ball that was obviously in. Folks, I'm talking crystal clear. It was visible to everyone in the stadium. It was easy to see the mark on the court. The trajectory was flawless. It was her point by all objective standards. Then the call was made though.
Alex a little bit annoyed now. That's the second time that has happened with that same linesman.
That's terrible enough on its own, but it gets considerably worse from here. At least it would have been a decision rather than just giving the point to her opponent, which would have been the wrong choice. The officials made the decision to completely replay the point. You are aware that's not usual practice if you are familiar with tennis. If you're unsure about a call, you don't simply get to replay points. The ball is either in or out. Forget about it. You make a choice and follow through on it. However, it appears that the standard guidelines don't seem to apply to Alex Eala. Here's why I adore Alex Eala. She didn't simply accept it. Calm yet strong, she approached the chair umpire. "I know what you're doing," she remarked. The assurance in her voice and the resolve in her eyes. She would not allow herself to be intimidated. She refused to allow them to mistreat her. She confronted them on the court because she was well aware of what was going on. And you know what? Alex Eala prevailed in that match in spite of all of that foolishness, dubious calls, and attempts to distract her. She persevered. She persevered and advanced to the Australian Open qualifying finals. This is the kind of resilience and mental fortitude that we are discussing. But hold on, things become even more troubling. I'll tell you what transpired when she faced Iga Swiatek. Now, let me give you some background if you're not a tennis fan. One of the best players in the world is Iga Swiatek. We are discussing an enormous force on the court, a multiple Grand Slam champion, and a former world number one. It is already an amazing accomplishment for a young player like Alex Eala to be able to compete with someone of that ability. And you know what? Eala wasn't merely competitive. She was playing really well. She was holding her own against one of the top players in the game, matching Swiatek shot for shot. It was gaining momentum. She has the potential to pull off one of the tournament's biggest upsets. Suddenly, a referee chose to question her about things in her backpack. You heard correctly. Eala was gaining significant momentum and confidence during a pivotal round when an official chose to cause a commotion over her backpack. Here's the really unsettling bit, though. They didn't simply deal with it in silence. The statement was made loud enough for everyone in the audience to hear. In an effort to degrade her in front of the stadium's thousands of spectators and the millions of people watching at home worldwide, they attempted to paint her as some sort of rule breaker.
It's confirmed you cannot use it.
Consider the psychological effects of that on a player. You're in the zone, you're playing at the top level against one of the world's top players, and all of a sudden you're being publicly called out and humiliated over something insignificant. It's a blatant attempt to intimidate her, put her off her game, and get her to question herself just when she most needed her confidence. Professional sports have no place for this kind of psychological warfare. Not one. And that's precisely why Novak Djokovic's statement is so crucial. Djokovic is more than simply a casual pundit. He is among the all-time great tennis players. He has 24 Grand Slam victories. He has dominated the sport for almost 20 years. He understands what it's like to compete at the top level. Additionally, he is aware of the differences between bias and bad management and fair treatment. People pay attention when someone with Djokovic's qualifications and expertise speaks out about a problem like this. And since what he's saying makes perfect sense, people ought to pay attention. Alex Eala is deserving of better. She should be treated fairly. She should be treated with the same respect and opportunity as all the other players on the circuit. The way the WTA is handling such circumstances has to be thoroughly examined. Assignments to courts shouldn't be made at random. Fairness and consistency should characterize officiating. In addition to competing against their rivals on the court, young, gifted tennis players from smaller countries like the Philippines shouldn't have to deal with prejudice and bad administration. What are your thoughts on all of this, then? Do you concur with Novak Djokovic that Alex Eala's treatment has been improperly handled by the WTA? Have you observed how her matches are impacted by this trend of dubious rulings and decisions? Please share your opinions in the comments section below. I'd want to know your thoughts. And let's give Alex Eala some encouragement. This young lady has already conquered a great deal, and she will keep rising in spite of these challenges. She is talented. She possesses mental tenacity. Additionally, she now has advocates like Novak Djokovic. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel with notifications enabled. Give this video a thumbs up, share it with your fellow tennis fans, and let's raise awareness of what's actually going on in the sport we all adore. If you liked it and would like to see more tennis content and coverage of significant issues like this, I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep working for